Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report. And we already have in our studio our guest to discuss the issue this morning. We're talking about banditry and criminality. So we have Patrick Agbambu, President, CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiatives. Mr. Agbambu, good to have you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Also, we have joining us here is Abutu Yaro, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police and fellow National Defense College. Mr. Yaro, good to have you again.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Pleasure. And we also have joining us via Zoom from Uyo is Dr. Benson Olubuo, Public Interest Legal Practitioner and former Country Director of Center for Civilians in Conflict, Nigeria office. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's kickstart our conversation this morning with retired AIG Yaro. I'm sure you are also worried with the level of criminality and banditry that is going on presently in the country. Just yesterday, the president had to go to Benue State to console and condole the people of the state and also to assure them that government is not lagging behind in ensuring safety of the people. Now, let's look at before we look at the root causes of this banditry and criminality, let's examine the visit of the president to Benue State. What impact you think it will have to calm nerves in this situation?
Thank you very much. The visit of Mr. President to Benue with respect to the water situation is apt, and it provides sufficient balm to the situation of the moment. Apart from providing relief, psychological relief to the impacted people, it has proven to all and sundry that the top level of governance is deeply concerned about the deteriorating security in that region or that general area. In addition, it tends to have provided a new leverage, political leverage required to tackle the menace. The presidential pronouncement that were given with respect to the incidents is an eye-opener that solution is on the way. For example, the president directed in specific terms that the Inspector General of Police and all other security agents should make concerted effort to effect arrests. At a point, Mr. President even wondered and asked the Inspector General of Police how many people have been arrested or why have people not been arrested. That itself is a cliché. Number two, the visit has demonstrated the presidential determination to bring this issue into proper control and reduce further incidents by one of the proclamations that said, from now henceforth, state government and other governments should make effort to put in place what we call ranching as a way of taking care of the needs of persons in dispute. And the president further made effort and announced or directed that most of the critical stakeholders in Benue and the general area, including the political gladiators, the impacted people, some of the adversaries, opinion leaders, should have a conversation with him at a later date in Abuja.
As a committee?
As a committee. And I think these are specific and profound efforts designed and implemented to bring succor. And in addition, we all saw the president visiting the victims in their hospitals and in their camps. This is of a historical essence in the sense that since this Benue issue started on record in the most glaring form we are seeing, no sitting president has visited what we call locus inco locus in quo implies the scene of incident, the scene of crime. That alone is a strategic, bold move that sends strong message to all of us that the government is determined to bring this situation under control. And we believe that in the days ahead, everybody acting together in good faith, not only presidential proclamation, but we the people, we the actors, we the observers, we the residents, must have a more proactive and amenable mindset designed to bring the presidential proclamation into effective and productive result. Our mindset is still key in this design. As much as the president initiates effort, we the people must have a kind of a rebooting or readjustment of our approach to the issues, of our mindset, and the way we go about in order to make the whole situation a more successful outcome. Thank you.
When you say a rebooting or a readjustment of the mindset, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by this is simple. It is an established fact which most commentators and the elitist Nigeria has ignored to evidently present it to the front burner. One of the rebooting is that the adversaries, that is the headers, the farmers, are having some mindset that we have never really emphasized it openly with an effort to correct it. One of the mindsets of the headers is this, that land has no ownership. That land is a nature's blessing. Whereas the farmers and the communities, their mindset and their belief that land or forest are individual and community properties that has a defined ownership, defined use. That mindset must be understood by all and sundry. In most parts of the country, from most of the time from the Middle Belt down to the Atlantic Ocean, that mindset of ownership of land belonging as a property, definite property, is an established fact. And that mindset too, our penal system and the law recognizes that. Whereas in some parts of the country, the vast land is not seen in that way. So the convergence of this dichotomy, dialectics, must be highlighted. It must be understood because it provides the precursor to the incident we are managing. They believe that you can move from here to there as long as there's no building. That belief in most parts of the country does not hold. And even the law, the legal provision, does not support that. Unused forest has a definite communal ownership and personal ownership. And that is why when you are acquiring land, even for government purposes, most times you pay compensation to the family of the community holding. It is important for us to make this subject to be understood by all of us in order to make our country more workable. If we just move and say under the banner of freedom of movement, like as I move into this studio, as I have a freedom of movement to move into the studio, after the studio is a public asset, it does not hold. It defies logic and common sense. I agree that this studio is a common property. It's still regulated by some people who are superintending, who are managing it on behalf of the public. The same doctrine applies. And lastly, some of the mindsets too, which is common, which we have failed to speak about, is that we in this part of the country, particularly the former northern Nigeria, which Benue is an integral part, had, as far back as 1964, under the regime of our premier, the late Sir Ahmadu Bello of blessed memory, he enacted what we call Grace Land Law Act of Northern Nigeria. And all the 19 states, they are part and parcel of that Northern Nigeria. As we domesticated our law to our states, we make reverence to the laws of Northern Nigeria before states were creation. Those grazing reserves that were provided under Sardauna's government by Act in 1964, they are still there. The territories are still there. Most of these farmers and grazers, they are aware. They are aware of the story. They are aware of the narratives. Their fathers and parents told them this story. But we, the elites, that's why I say we need to reboot our mindset. We have tactically, silently, preposterously decided to keep it aside. Whereas the impacted people, the farmers and the herders, they are aware of this thing.
So there's need for a revisit.
Sure, that is a rebooting of the mindset I'm talking about.
Okay.
All these are fundamental issues involved that if we don't provide attention to them, the presidential initiative arising from this visit will not yield the desired dividend in time and in quality and in quantity that will bring peace to Benue and most part of our country. I rest my case for now.
Thank you so much. You've raised some pertinent questions. Let me bring in Mr. Patrick into this conversation now. First of all, I would like you to tell us what you think of the president's visit to Benue State. This is the first. It's beginning to set the precedent, and I believe as a Nigerian, it will sort of suit the pain a little bit that the president cares and he's there. But this is a persistent issue. It's a hydra-headed monster that refuses to die. So you've been on monitoring of issues like this across the country. When you heard the news of what happened in your water, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, my first reaction wasn't that of surprise, because we know that Benue is like a time bomb until the problems or the situation is taken care of, and as at now, not taken care of. So anytime it could erupt. But my reaction to the president's going was I was so elated, I was so happy, and because I know the impact. And the impact is far-reaching, and apart from calming the nerves, it will help to set the template for a solution to this. Before now, for me, I have called, we have been treating the symptoms, but there is need to treat the disease itself, which is understanding. And I remembered here, the last I talked about, I said, listen, the solution must be by the people. And the president made in his pronouncement, just as the AIG pointed out, the committee of elders that the president actually is asked that they must be set up, of all gladiators and everybody. They must meet, they must agree. Then they will meet him in Abuja for them to fine-tune every other thing. This is the best thing that could have happened. And I believe that moving forward, and with the political will, I just pray that it will not just fizzle out after people seem to have forgotten, because in Nigeria there are a lot of activities that happens every day that we seem to forget some issue. We must not let this be what will help to solve this Benue crisis, not just only Benue, because it will become a template to the Plateau incident, even the Nasarawa incident also, because they also have the same crisis. They're all in the same region and they are suffering the same issue. So for me, I believe that it was the joker now to be able to do it. And the governor, like the president did say, has given the governor the charge. You are not elected to be burying people. You are to govern and for projects and development. So it's time for him to now sit up, forget political leaning, because the problem there, just as the Tortif did say, there's some political activities that also aggravate the situation, and utterances aggravate. So I believe that the president's visit, just like a father who has spoken to them, will help to be able to take care of the whole problem.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bambu, for your opening remarks there. Let's bring in Dr. Olugbo into this conversation. Let's get your perspective from the legal and civilian protection angle. We're looking at the president's visit and the issue of criminality and banditry in the country, especially in the northwest and north central and the southeast. So what do you think are the root causes, from your own perspective?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really want to use this opportunity to condole the people of Benue State over what has happened. It's really quite unfortunate. I think the visit of the president is welcomed, but I want to slightly disagree with the distinguished retired AIG. With my own little knowledge of the law, locus unquo means where the action took place. And where the action took place is Yewata, not at Government House in Benue State. The president visited some of the victims and survivors, but the action took place in Yewata, in a particular local government. I don't think the president went there. There were flooding, and it was impossible for him to go. But that's also failure of governance. But what I want to bring on the table is that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says clearly that it is the primary responsibility of the government to protect life and properties. And no non-state actor can take over that responsibility. So clearly what we are seeing is that both the state government and the federal government have proven that they are unable to protect lives and properties, especially in Benue State and other centers of conflict in the country. The reality is that Amnesty International released a report in May to say that between May 2023 to May 2025, that we lost 6,896 people in Benue State as a result of these attacks, and that 450,000 citizens of Benue State have been displaced. So this is May. So that means if you add what has happened in June, we are looking at not less than 7,000 people killed just within a span of 2 years, and probably a lot more that have been displaced. And of course, this is statistics. So there's the possibility that the real numbers may be higher than what we have officially. So in terms of banditry and criminality in Nigeria, there's quite a lot that we need to unpack. And for me, I think there's a responsibility for everybody, both the federal government, both the state government, both the local government, both the Office of the National Security Advisor, Office of the National Human Rights Commission, and even the National Assembly, because we all have responsibilities to ensure that citizens go home to sleep and they sleep with their 2 eyes closed. There's a lot of factors, a lot of issues. People have called it climatic change. People have called it banditry, criminality, land grabbing. Of course, we also had the Tortiv bringing up the issue of genocide and possibly ethnic cleansing. One cannot wish these things away. I spoke to a colleague who lives in Benue State, and I asked him, what do you think should be the solution to this problem? He said everybody should be armed. I think everybody should be armed. He knows nobody will agree to arm every Nigerian. But I think the frustration that government is saying, stay in peace, live with your neighbors, but people come with AK-47 and clean out a village is scary. So I think it's a possibility. It's something that we should look closely. And that means that the protection of civilians should be on the front burner of government activity. The tension of the economic status of the country is also affecting this, the climatic change. And of course, everybody knows that Benue State is the food capital of Nigeria. It's the food basket of Nigeria. So it's also impacting on our ability to feed ourselves, because from the feelers we are getting, from the interviews we have held in Benue State, quite a number of lands now are no longer being farmed. Most of the farmers are no longer able to even visit their farms. I know a number of people from Benue State who stay in Abuja who say they are unable to even visit their local government because of insecurity. And people have occupied even their own homelands. It's a big issue, but I think if there is political will to resolve this crisis, it can always be resolved. And the president has a responsibility. The governor of the state also has a responsibility. And I agree with what has already been said here, that there is political dimension to this issue between, of course, what you can call the political gladiators in Benue State. And I don't believe that non-state actors should be so armed that they're able to displace the police, displace the Nigerian armed forces and other security agencies, and then just disappear into the thin air. And we are not able to do any arrests. We don't know where they are coming from. Of course, a lot of people have stated clearly that there are porous borders in Nigeria. We agree. And that most times, some of these invaders or marauders or whatever you can call them, or bandits, or, they come from Nasarawa State. So even the locals said they got intelligence. They were informed that this thing was going to happen. And they related this information to security agencies, and that nothing happened. Although some of them also said that they must applaud the Nigerian police force because they first attacked the police force that was stationed close to that place before they were kind of different places where they moved in to cause the mayhem. I sympathize with the people of Benue State, but sympathy cannot solve this problem. The federal government has a responsibility. The state government has a responsibility to bring peace, to ensure that individuals who bear responsibilities for these crimes are held accountable. Accountable is a big issue in terms of resolving this issue. And if we just look over it, gloss over it, and bring the children out under the rain to welcome the president, is not the best optics. The people of Benue State are grieving. And I think we owe them that duty to ensure that the dead did not die in vain. And I think there is a responsibility for the federal government to put their foot on the ground and say never again, and make sure that we use our assets, both kinetic and non-kinetic, to resolve this conflict, not just in Benue State, but in different other theaters of war, of conflict in different parts of the country. Thank you.
I want to stay with you there. It's continual. It has been happening. And we've heard strong words coming from our presidents before and now President Tinubu. So do you think, in your opinion, Nigeria is investing enough, in security intelligence gathering and coordination between the security agencies?
I think that has been one of the problems of security architecture in Nigeria, and that lack of synergy between our security agencies. Unfortunately, and I stand to be corrected, most of our security agencies work in silos. There's no coordination in terms of what is happening. And I am not a security man, but I don't know the extent to which security agencies in Nigeria share intelligence, because this is clearly an issue of failure of intelligence, or either that is somebody who is supposed to do something did not do it. Because we have the Office of the National Security Advisor, we have this security services, we have the Nigerian Police Force, we have the Nigerian Armed Forces, and other ancillary security agencies. And nobody can tell me that no security agent got the signals that this was being planned. Nobody can tell me that nobody had any intelligence that there was movement of people with weapons, because the locals said that the people who attacked them came with more than 100 motorcycles. And I don't think such a movement would take place and security agencies will not know. I used to live in Kuje, and I know when the Kuje prison was attacked. My estate was very close to Kuje. In fact, we were bragging then that is one of the safest places because we lived close to, the Kuje prisons, and we always see security people. The day Kuje prison was attacked, nobody was around. For 2 complete hours, there was continuous bombardment of the Kuje prison. Even we were in our houses hearing the sounds of weapons and everything flying everywhere before they now evacuated. It was in the morning that we now saw some helicopters from security agencies flying around, and we're asking, how come this is happening after the fact? And that is also what happens sometimes. I wasn't in Yerwata, but I know that it must have actually been after these people operated and left that probably the security agencies arrived. And so there is that necessity for security agents to synergize with each other. there is need to share intelligence. And there is need for every credible intelligence to be reviewed and acted on. And so, if you ask me, there's quite a lot of work to be done. I mean, if you actually look at what has also happened with the Chibok saga and even other kidnappings that have happened in Nigeria, sometimes you see even security agencies falling over themselves to claim that they were the ones who rescued some of these girls. I don't think such competition should be in our security agencies, because it is the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is responsible for security. Therefore, they all report to the president. So I don't think we should have a cacophony of voices. They should work together. And if you also listen to the Chief of Defense Staff, he feels that some of these issues are political issues that can be solved politically. The problem is that we have given the Nigerian armed forces more than they should be doing in Nigeria. My own little understanding is that the Nigerian armed forces, their primary responsibility is to maintain the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is actually, and then to aid civil authority. So it is the primary responsibility of the Nigerian police force to ensure the protection of life and properties within the confines of the country. The role of the military is to aid civil authority. But what has happened is that because of different clashes, banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, and different things happening in different theaters of conflict, in most likely in the 36 states of the Federation, the Nigerian armed forces is now stressed that in areas where they are not supposed to be, they are in civilian spaces. And we know they are not trained to be in civilian spaces. It's the Nigerian police that is trained to be in civilian spaces. So you also see that tension, even between the locals and security agencies, because the architecture is to work. And that is why we've been calling that there is need for us to have a clear policy on the protection of civilians. Because a clear policy on the protection of civilians will tell us what is the primary responsibility of the Nigerian armed forces, what is the primary responsibility of the Nigerian police force, and other ancillary agencies. Don't forget that we have a national security strategy that is being reviewed now. And when we read that strategy, it is not very clear in that strategy what is the purpose of a strategy in terms of protection of civilians in Nigeria. I could go on, but let me stop here and allow other colleagues to also have a take in discussions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Olugbo, for being very considerate, at least to allow others to speak. You have raised a lot of issues, ranging from intelligence gathering to failure to respond, that is the prompt response to information when it is passed to security agencies, and also the collaboration of security agencies in, tackling security issues. We want to just remind our viewers that you can also contribute sending your questions via the the numbers displayed on your screen. Send text messages or WhatsApp to that number on your screen, and the guest in the studio will be able to respond to some of your comments and questions. Thank you. Now, retired AIG Yaro, Dr. Olugbo has raised some issues there that I want you to also probably respond to it. The issue of being a prompt response to intelligence gathering and information, especially when it's being passed across to security. You were a retired AIG. What exactly do you think is the challenge here? And how do you see the collaboration between government, security agencies?
Thank you very much. You see, in this kind of conversation, it is important for us to be as nationalistic and truthful as possible. Because a Nigeria that works is for the good of all of us. And there are some facts that we regard them as notorious facts. That is to say, is beyond further proof. It is a notorious fact that today is Thursday. Am I not correct?
Yeah.
You don't need to debate it because it's an established fact. You see, at many public fora, this assertion that intelligence gathering, collaboration is weak, as uncoordinated, seems to be the mantra. And that's still part of our Nigeria self-delusion and deception. Every country, according to retired CSP Donald Ogugbuaja, every country, you get the type of police you deserve. It's an established fact. If you want to have a police that operates like NYPD, you have it. If you want to have a police that operates like a militia, you have it. If you want to have a police that operates like the British MI5 or MFI6, you have it. We need to do serious introspection as Nigerians. Have we really functionalized our police to deliver the kind of mandate we often talk about in public and official fora? It's still part of it. We need to do cross-examination. Go to that area, Yelwata. Go and see the rickety of situation there, or what you call police system. What mandate do you expect that kind of system to deliver in this canter of criminal and aggravated violence breaking out? How can they be a first responder to that magnitude of criminality, that kind of savagery? These are issues in contention. Now, it is always easy to say that the security system, they are collaborating, my dear. They are collaborating. But the condition necessary for effective collaboration, are they really existing? If we don't begin to tell ourselves the naked truth and restructure our system to be in parity with functional environment, this deception will continue until we die, we fizzle out. And our children will come and inherit a dysfunctional one. So this matter, I want to leave it at this point. The security are working within the template of the workability we have created for them. They are really working in terms of commitment. But what are the operating tools? What are the operating conditions that we've provided them? Can any of us, as a functionary of authority, really say, look, Mr. Police, come. I provided you this, I provided you that. What is the relationship with what I provided you with what is on the ground? Or Mr. Secret Service, come. These are the leverage we provided, particularly in certain area that is prone to perennial attack. Do you know that Benue Police, where they are there, they don't have helicopter, they don't have communication system statewide, whereby you can stay at Agatu and call somebody in Makodi. If you cannot even stay at Utrukpo and come on police system to call somebody in Makodi. These are events that happen at wee hours of the day, like Yelwata now, 10:30 p.m. Villagers are sleeping in their villages. Somebody come on motorcycle, you cordon them. After killing all of them, you burn their body. Some of the gory pictures, VDM, put them for us to see. In that respect, the local police in that environment, or the police headquarters in Makodi, or the SSS headquarters in Makodi, that cannot even establish communication with the locals in where the event is happening, how do they respond? Let us be very truthful to our country and ourselves. We are just playing with our country. This is a country of 230 million people. It has arisen in recent time, at least in the last 20 years. Security has become the most valuable national commodity that our citizens really need. What have we done as a country to make that security to be at an upper level in terms of service delivery. Why you see security people are not really talking is that by the nature of their service, they operate under code of silence, even at the point of death. Even if you ask them anything, they will tell you, say, "Oh, correct, sir. The man is dying, and he has not even
Meanwhile, nothing is
he has not
correct.
even eaten since yesterday." So this situation is on and on. So we need to sit down as a country, as a elite group. Let us tell ourselves the naked truth. But if we want grandstanding, as most of us elite used to do, the consequences will always continue to manifest the way you see it. The people who employ in the security subsector, they are not in conflict with each other. They know their schedule. The man in the secret service knows that his soul is to gather intelligence. The man in the operational service, like the police and the civil defense, they know that when they make the intelligence available to them, their duty is to give effect to operationalizing the threats. But if you look at it, the gamut of the whole argument is that what have we put in place as a country for these lofty ideas to be translated into satisfactory service delivery? I think I've been seeing police retirees protesting in the National Assembly for the past 2 years, where you people are paying them nothing. Those ones in service are seeing how their seniors, their elders, their fathers have been standing at the gate of National Assembly for the past 2 years, protesting. At the same time, they know that the same fate befalls them. So, who responds to crisis with that kind of mindset? How can people work for you for 35 years? You go and give them 35,000 as take home. And now the one who is an inspector at Yalwata, you expect him to work harder than his predecessor. I want to appeal to Nigerians to have a closer look at the demands and challenges of our security operatives. Look at the military. Every day they are dying in their numbers. One of them has been on TikTok, retired or dismissed or a old soldier. He has been lambasting all of us that we are paying them 100,000 a month and he cannot do soldier work again. How do you send somebody to front line to go and give him 100,000 after 30 days and you expect commitment? And this is our country. And this is the same country that somebody will just sign off $100 billion in naira as state fund. He has taken it. And the same person is buying new cars every day, driving all over the place, to our annoyance for us to see. And as a country, we cannot tell him, say, Mr. Man, stop there. These are some of the fundamental issues that we need to address, not what this my brother there is talking about. The security people are committed to work. Nobody joined the military or the police or the SSS without determination to contribute to Nigeria. So the aspect of security and intelligence working, I do not subscribe to that treatise.
Okay. Let me pause you there now. We have some text messages that came in before I come to Mr. Patrick. Let me read them out. The first one says, we thank His Excellency for visiting Benue State, the scene of the disaster. We now have hope in having peace. This is Yina Anado sent it. And the next one said, the fight against insurgency must be backed by absolute loyalty and trust. There are growing concerns over internal sabotage and the urgent need for tighter intelligence monitoring within the ranks to prevent future breaches and preserve the integrity of ongoing counter-terrorism operations. Thank you for your service. God bless Nigeria. Nandom Weir from Jos. And Mr. Emiong from Jos also said, good morning, Nigerians. Banditry and criminality is a nightmare to us as a country, and government should redouble our efforts, bringing in all the military arsenals into eliminating the criminals because they cannot be meaningful economic progress in the midst of insecurity. God bless Nigeria. Engineer Mayong from Jos. So, Mr. Patrick, the retired AIG has raised some issues of funding, taking care of the troops. My question is, what happens to the security votes that states get all the time? Where does it go to? Must the federal government do everything? Everything boils down to the center, but what are states doing with the security votes they get from the federal government?
Thank you so much. You see, that is where we have the big disconnect. Big disconnect in the sense that we have three levels of government, but today we're only talking about the federal government most of the time. Again, maybe because security is on the exclusive list where the federal government that shoulders it. But the governors are the chief security officers of their states. And over time, we have seen them draw what they call security votes, which is unaccounted for, which is not, nobody knows how much it is even and all that. And this, there's been a lot of allegation they pilfer this and use it for their own personal welfare and all that, apart from their salaries and other largesse they collect. That, to me, is quite irresponsible because you can't be a governor of a state whom we are elected to protect and take care of their welfare, and the people are dying or their properties are being lost, and you are taking care of yourself and your family, and you are not investing in making sure that your people are protected. I've always said it that we should emulate the situation we have in Lagos State. Lagos State has a template where whether the state vote is there or not, there is a system that has already set up to take care of the security agencies in the state. Whether it's enough or not, but there is something that at the end, every 6 months, things are provided for them. Their welfare is taken care of, all that. And he has made it an attraction for some people in the various security services to want to go serve in Lagos State because of they have that situation. Other states can do the same, and if better. Some of the states, some will say, what about revenue? Do they have it? They do. If they can cut down on their security votes and invest in security, because that is the primary commodity we have now. And it's very essential for us, because if we don't survive, we can't develop. You can't think of development. Today, it's lip service that is being done, and at any time there's any security breaches, we'll cry over it, after which 2 weeks max, we've forgotten about it, or we'll go back again to cry into another issue, maybe partying or political activities and all that, not taking care of those whom you expect. The president have given charge to the IG. He has asked where is the arrest, make sure they are arrested, told the military, you must do this, you must do that. How able would they be able to execute? They have the will, they have the commitment, but the tools to work, it's not there. You are not motivating them enough to do the work. How many are there? They are not even in number. People, when they talk about all this, oh, why didn't they respond? How many are there? Go to Benue, find out the strength of the police in that command alone. It's not even enough. Yes, some people have said that, oh, but the politicians are having some for their own personal. That is another thing again, that there's need for restructuring and internal probing of what is actually happening. But still, if you put everybody together, it's not. Policing is supposed to be 400 to 1 citizen. But today, as what we have is close to about 3,000 to 1 citizen. And so they can't be everywhere. And that's a lot of people have talked about issues of getting some support by timely information being passed and all that. But information, like the retired AIG did said, if you pass information to the police in Yewata, how fast can they communicate to the headquarters to get support? It's not possible. Does the police in Yewata, do they have any interconnectivity in terms of communication? Not GSM now we're talking about, with even the military, the next military sector, to be able to give them support. They don't have. There's no provision in terms of communication that will help to facilitate all this. If you go take inventory of the armory in that area too, it's not, they may not even have up to what these aggressors, these non-state actors are having, but we expect them to do magic. So really, I think that to your question directly, the state governors have not acted responsibly with the so-called security votes that they collect every month and leaving the people to die. The president has said, you are not elected to bury citizens, or for us to come and mourn and orphans and orphanage. No, that is, you are elected to make sure that they are alive and they are well. So that's, I think, the leadership of all states and local government, because if the Guma local government where the worker it falls into is active, then the local government, there will be level of security committees there. When you talk about intelligence, they will be able to process it immediately there and actions will be taken. But none of the local governments are working. So a total breakdown of administration in this country, and until we get it right, we'll continue to experience things like this, sadly.
Until we get it right, we'll continue to experience happenings like this. Thank you, Mr. Agbambo, for that. We just have this, before I go to Dr. Olugbo, let me just read these comments from Muhammad Awal Musa Afama from Kano. He said, ending banditry and criminality requires a multifaceted approach in adopting principles of community development, addressing the root causes of crime, and promoting community engagement. This involves enhancing security measures, improving socio-economic conditions, and fostering collaboration between communities and the settlers through community development process. Thank you, Mohammed, for that, your comment. Now let's go to Dr. Olugbo. Some people we've talked about the issue of reconciliation, but some are arguing that before we talk about reconciliation, that is to promote reconciliation and healing in affected communities, that justice needs to be served to victims of these ugly incidents. How do you think that justice should be served for victims of these incidents, and how do we go about reconciliation? How do we promote reconciliation in the affected communities?
Very, very important question. In terms of the African Union Transitional Justice Framework, accountability is a key principle of transitional justice. And when there is no accountability, it breeds the fact of a clear part of impunity, where individuals feel they can do something and get away with it. And basically also, that is, to our understanding, what is happening in Nigeria. There's quite a lot of impunity. There is no clear part of accountability, and the victims and survivors of these crimes feel they are not protected by the system that we run. The reality also is, don't forget that Nigeria is a signatory to several international treaties that also talk about accountability. For example, one of them is the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court that prosecutes individuals for war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and then the crime of aggression. And Article 17 of that Rome Statute promotes the issue of complementarity. And that is that it is the primary responsibility of every government to hold her citizens accountable. It is only when the state is unwilling and unable to hold the citizens accountable should the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court be activated. So what is happening in Nigeria, just to remind you, is that even with the Boko Haram conflict, there has not been effective accountability for the crimes that have been committed in the Northeast. Now we are looking at what is happening in North Central. The reality is that even the prosecutions that are currently going on in terms of the conflict in the Northeast, the law we are using is the terrorism law. And we know that the modes of the elements of crime of terrorism is different from when you talk about genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. Probably the federal government is just doing it as a matter of, let's see what we can do. But if you look at the provisions of the Rome Statute very well, you will know that we need an implementing legislation of the Rome Statute, which is in pari material also with our own local law, which says, the Constitution says that any treaty entered into by Nigeria has to be domesticated by the National Assembly. So there is no implementing legislation for the International Criminal Court. One of the problems we've had in the Northeast, is that some of the victims are not carried along in terms of the reconciliation process of the government. And the reason is very clear, that they don't see any accountability mechanism that is weaved into the reconciliation. Therefore, without reconciliation, without justice actually, accountability, those who commit these crimes being held accountable, it is actually a little difficult for you to call somebody for reconciliation. If we take into consideration what is happening in different other African countries, for example, in Uganda, where they have the Mato Put, or in Rwanda, where they had the Gachacha and different other systems, there were accountability mechanisms embedded in these traditional justice mechanisms. So the reality also is that they did not just go only for the traditional justice mechanism. They also had accountability mechanisms that is functional within the state apparatus that they were using to deal with these issues. A lot of communities are going through a lot. A lot of these citizens have died. Victims, survivors are going through a lot. So for you to have an effective reconciliation using the African Union Transitional Justice Framework, I believe that there is need for accountability. Those who commit these crimes should be held accountable. And there is need for us to also look at the issue of victims. It's not just about punishing the people who commit the atrocities. We also need to have a victim-centered accountability mechanism. People have lost their ones. People no longer have houses to stay. And so what it means is that there has to be a holistic approach to the reconciliation. And you cannot be telling somebody to go and reconcile when the person doesn't have the next food to eat. The person has lost their dear ones.
Okay, Dr. Benson, we have to pause you there. We have another topic to discuss and we're running out of time. Let me come back to the studio now. Mr. Patrick, on the final note, from what the president has said, if fully followed and implemented, would we be seeing a peaceful Benue State in the future?
Yes, I believe that we'll be seeing a peaceful Benue State. Not just only Benue becomes a template for other areas of conflict. And I must commend the security forces, particularly the armed forces, for doing their work. They have tried. The police is doing, but the police, just like the president said, he has to put in more effort and to do better. But finally, I believe that the government and the people must support them creditably to be able to function effectively. That these are the only reasons or only way that the president's utterances or desire can come to realization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agbambu. We have these comments from Matthew Ishi from Makodi. It says, anytime we have this attack, there's always an info that these attackers are coming in from Nasarawa State. We get this info and nothing is being done till it happens. This is by Darin Panom Silas from Jaws. It says, good morning, our esteemed guest on Good Morning Nigeria. Insecurity in Nigeria should be the concern of all Nigerians, not only security agencies. We need to collaborate with each other than blaming securities and government. Thank Mr. President for the visit to Benue State yesterday.
I have some. Can I read them? Okay. Yes, I have one that came in from Port Harcourt, Henry. He said, I would like to ask the retired AIG to shed more light in intelligence gathering because I can vividly say that the security body was aware of these attacks and I believe all these attacks are politically influenced. And one said, to end security challenges in Nigeria, it will require strong will from the government. Another one said, good morning. My contribution to what the AIG just said, if the security personnel are underpaid as excuses for lesser performance while the bandits are killing, why are the bandits not killing the corrupt leaders but going after the vulnerable in the society? Please tell the AIG that the killers have no excuse as God will judge everyone accordingly. And one said the retired police officer is offering solutions based on the root causes, reorientation around land ownership, strengthening the capacity, infrastructure, and training of police force, not necessarily because they don't have intelligence.
Well, we have just less than
1 minute.
So maybe just your
Thank you very much. Why I align myself with the presidential declaration, but there's a caveat there. One of the items of the presidential declaration was the issue of ranching. I believe it goes further than that.
Okay.
There's need for grazing reserve. There's a fundamental difference between a ranch and grazing reserve. Grazing reserve are set out by the late Sardauna, the Premier of Northern Nigeria. Grazing reserves are public utilities, whereas ranches are private enterprises. I can assure you that most of the herders may not have the financial outlay.
Also.
There are some that are peasant herders with less than 10 animals, less than 20. Now, those ones, they lack capacity to do ranching. Ranching means an acquired environment, fenced, with a forage assured, with water system assured, with veterinary services assured, with motorable road assured. But grazing reserve is an expanse of land, open forest, always not even guided or barricaded, whereby a collectives of herders move in there and they do the needful within the whole year. And this is doable, this is possible, in the sense that the 19 northern states government, what they need to do is to look into our books. What did we leave in our cabinet office in Kaduna when our states were created? Let us all the reserve.
Retired AIG Yaro, I'm sorry, we just have to cut you here. We have another conversation, and it's really unfortunate we can't continue with this conversation. More time. We will have another conversation on this matter, and we do hope that you will be available. So thank you very much, retired AIG Abutu Yaro, who is also a fellow National Defense College. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's
my pleasure.
Also, I want to thank Mr. Patrick Agbambu, President, CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiatives. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And our Zoom guest from Uyo, Dr. Benson Olugbo, Public Interest Legal Practitioner and former Country Director of Center for Civilians in Conflict Nigeria Office. Dr. Olugbo, thank you for your perspective this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you. So we'll take a break now. Our conversation on energy and governance will kick off immediately after the break. Stay with us.